Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah had their closing press conference on Wednesday. And of course, Kirk Cousins is going to be a topic of conversation because he's a free agent quarterback. And of course, he was asked about Kirk Cousins. And here's what Kwesi had to say, his full quote. I think I've been pretty consistent with that. Kirk, the player. He's somebody who, as we saw, what he does for this team. I thought we'd been playing really good football before he got injured. It's the most important position in sports. Ultimately, it's always going to come down to, can you find an agreement that works for both sides? And all of those things. But as a player, it's certainly my intention to have him back here. Now, this is the ultimate saying something without actually saying anything, quote. This is right in the Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah playbook. Play number 1. Don't say a damn thing. Every single one of their press conferences, they say something without actually saying a single thing. It's certainly my intention to have him back here. What does that even mean? You could play a really fun game with intentions. I certainly intended on putting my clothes away after my wife and I folded them. I just didn't do it. I certainly intended to follow the speed limit and not get pulled over, but I just chose not to. I certainly intended to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, do my chores, get work done, but I decided to sleep in. I intended to bring Kirk Cousins back, but we just couldn't get a deal done. This is a classic save yourself in the future quote. Because when Kirk Cousins, or if Kirk Cousins doesn't re-sign with the Minnesota Vikings, Kwesi can come back to this press conference and say, we tried to bring him back. We tried to make a deal that worked out for both sides. We intended to bring Kirk Cousins back. This is the ultimate, come back in a couple weeks, couple months kind of quote and say, well, we said we wanted him back. It just didn't work out. We couldn't find a contract that worked with both sides. There were 3 options for Kwesi in this press conference. He could have said, Kirk Cousins is the number 1 priority this offseason, or number 2 or number 3 priority behind Justin Jefferson's contract. He didn't say that because that's saying too much. Number 2, he could have said, we are not bringing Kirk Cousins back. We are looking to draft a quarterback, and we are going to focus on building a roster around that rookie quarterback so that we can be a championship team maybe next season if we're lucky, but definitely year 2 or year 3 with that rookie quarterback. Of course he's not going to say that. That's saying too much. So he says the easiest cop-out answer in the history of the world. We intend on bringing Kirk Cousins back. Doesn't mean it's important for us. Doesn't mean that it's the number 1 or number 2 priority. But we're going to try, and if it doesn't work, well, at least we intended on bringing him back. This is all over the sports websites. The final line is everywhere. It's a headline catcher because the Vikings intend on bringing Kirk Cousins back. Well, bravo for you. I just think it's really smart by Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell to come with these statements that don't mean a single thing. But when I read them, I'm not going to read them and pretend they mean a single thing. They're going to grab the headlines. They're going to be headline catchers. People are going to write stories about this statement. People are going to do podcasts like I am about this statement. But how many people are going to take this statement and actually share what it means like the Minnesota Tim podcast is doing right now? People actually believe this stuff. And maybe they'll resign him. Okay, maybe they will. There's a good chance that they do, actually. But this comment of intentions is just laughable to me. Because I remember back in the day when Stephon Diggs was the wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, and Rick Spielman came out and said, we are not trading Stephon Diggs. Comments by general managers mean absolutely nothing, especially those general managers that know what they're doing. Kwesi knows what he's doing here, and he's doing something really, really smart. He's saying absolutely nothing while actually still making a statement. So, those are my reactions to Kwesi's big intentions on bringing Kirk Cousins back next season. Thank you for listening. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please hit that rate and follow button wherever you are currently listening to this podcast. Everyone, take care and have a great day.